of the questions that comes up, which Aristotle poses in this is, how then do you educate a good citizen? And how is that different from educating a good individual? You see the difference?
Yeah.
Because he says this, that perhaps it is not the same to be a good man and a good citizen of any state taken at random. There's a difference in being a good man and a good citizen of any state taken at random.
You
Right?
know, one who's following the laws versus one who is living virtuously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look, Nelson Mandela was not a good citizen of apartheid
Right.
South Africa, but he was a great man.
Right.
Mahatma Gandhi was not a good citizen of colonial British times, but he was a great man. My point is that there is a difference in the education of these two people. Our education system today is about how do you be a good citizen by following the laws, pay your taxes, and all of that stuff, right? But how
Right.
do you become a morally excellent person who's going to stand up against injustice, do the right thing, participate in the common good, right? Because it's not against the law to not be generous with your time, to not volunteer your time, to it's not against the law to not be charitable.
Yeah, there's a few concepts there, right? One is being a good person in an unjust society, right? Where the Constitution and laws, there are laws in place that might be protecting and keep the laws aren't necessarily just.
That's right. The laws are for the powerful. They serve the ideas or they serve the interests of the few. In an oligarchy, it is the wealthy. In a democracy, it should be the people, but that's not what ends up happening. What ends up happening in a democracy, it is people who have status. Like literally, you can have actors become politicians just based on the fact that they're popular. So those laws that are, look, you create a constitution and then you have lawyers out the wazoo and they can then interpret those laws, and who are the lawyers working for? They're not working for the people. I mean, the wealthy can afford the legal system, to modify the legal system, right? The people with status, the people with power, the people with money. So it's no longer serving the common good.
No.
So then in that situation, the virtuous, the Socrates, the Nelson Mandela, the Mahatma Gandhi, the Martin Luther King of the world are no longer following the law because the law is unjust. So then how do you educate someone to be a good individual, a good human being? You see, I think that's where these conversations come in.
It's teaching so much more than memorizing the laws and understanding like what we're told is good and bad, or I go to jail, I don't go to jail. It's very, the laws, the way we live is black and white. That not going into, to your point, they might not be morally just. So how do you create a morally just person? How do you educate them of that? I think it's to, yeah,
I don't know how you'd answer it. Like I don't have
yeah,
an answer. So
yeah.
the Republic talks about it.
Uh-huh.
The Republic talks about the education of the virtuous human being. How do you create the philosopher king?
Mhm.
And all of that is just how does one educate oneself? It's a completely introspective act. Like
Yeah.
on our logo, the mirror there is introspection. You got to
Mhm.
look at oneself, and all of what's in the Republic is an introspective act.
Yeah.
And from the kind of he speaks about the kind of music you would listen to, the kind of books that you would read. I mean, this is the
Mhm.
same kind of stuff that we are exposed to today. What kind of
Yeah.
humor you should participate in. But the big takeaway for me from the Republic was one has to act in the world and act voluntarily. That means one is not being just led astray by convention, by appetites. What I mean by
Mhm.
appetite is like, emotional or lizard brain kind of thinking. One is rationally thinking before they act. And one is not wise when one starts off in that course. But one says, I'm going to A/B test this. I'm going to try this and see what happens. And I'm going to learn from it. And so it is thought, action, and reflection. Thought, action, and reflection. But you could do thought, action, and reflection without having any sort of underpinning, not having any sort of an understanding of where you should start first. We follow convention. The easiest thing to do is do what the world is telling you to do.
Yeah. Scenarios is a great way to reflect on
Dilemmas.
things, right? Dilemmas, right?
Yeah.
The poor husband, wife, the wife is sick and dying, and you can't afford the medicine, but you know where the medicine is. You can go and steal the medicine and therefore then save your wife. I mean, this is a type of question where you're starting to talk about, well, what is right and wrong in this type of scenario, right? Or, do you put food on the table versus buying the medicine? So,
Those are dilemmas. But I'll tell you, a lot of people look at those dilemmas, and there's a reason why one cannot really argue their point. There's the whole trolley experiment and all of this, right? Once one can state an opinion, and you could change your opinion tomorrow because one doesn't have the philosophical underpinning. One is not seen as much in life to be able to actually give an answer.
yeah,
And the dilemma is that there's no right answer really. But what I mean to say is that there is, in fact, a virtuous answer there. But at least you have given it thought. You could say, okay, fine, I don't know the answer, but this is what Socrates would have done. And so,
right.
you know what? All things considered, if I'm not smart enough, I'm going to follow somebody who is, right? And there are three types of people. Like Aristotle starts Nicomachean Ethics saying this. There are three types of people: those who know that they don't know and are willing to learn from those who know. The third group is they don't know that they don't know and they're unwilling to learn. I mean, I spent most of my life really in that third group.
You're willing to learn.
I didn't even know that I didn't know. I thought I
No.
was a cardiologist and all of that stuff. So, I'm sure I know.
Yeah.
I mean, the world tells me I know. People come to
Right.
me from all over the place saying, help me, you know. But I don't know. I didn't know what happiness was. I didn't know what justice was. I
Right.
didn't understand the difference between the law and the justice in the law and the justice in virtue. And honestly, I didn't come upon these facts on my own. I heard Plato. And then, I mean, I read Plato and I'm reading Aristotle. That's how I know I'm learning. I'm in the second group. Thankfully, I'm in that second group. I think that's a great group to be in. I think the first group is not for mere mortals.
Yeah.
um,
Never.
But you brought up a very good point, Jeremy, which I wanted to say. The second question here is exactly what you brought up. And I think that's an important question. The first question that we pose is, what is there a difference between just following the laws and actually being a virtually excellent person? And what's that?